it's Rachel. Today on Crack Your Bible, we are going to be talking about Abram and his faith, and can we even have faith like Abram? Because as much as I don't like him, God kind of slapped me around and was like, you're wrong, Rachel. You need to, look at it again. But before we get started, make sure you hit subscribe with the bell, with the parentheses, so that you are notified of a new gospel message. Because of course Satan and Google, they don't want you to know the gospel, so they make you jump through 10,000 hoops. Just do it, hit subscribe with the bell, with the parentheses, and let's get started. If you've been with me from the beginning, you know that Abram lived in Ur of the Chaldeans. And we know that this is Iraq. This is basically where Adam and Eve started out. Garden of Eden, all the different rivers right there, Tigris, Euphrates, all the other ones right there. So humanity had pretty much stayed in the same spot, and God wanted them to go be fruitful, multiply, teem over the face of the earth. God tells Abram when he is in Haran, after his father has died, you need to leave your country, your people, and your family's household and go to the land that I am showing you. Why would God tell Abram to leave everything behind? Well, you have to understand where Abram was coming from. He was coming from that old sinful lifestyle. People are going to war against God. They're building the Tower of Babel. They don't want to be known by God's name. They don't want his Shem. They want to make a name for themselves. They don't want God. They want to go to war against God because they want to be God. So they built the Tower of Babel. We know that if you've been with me since Nimrod, that these people were worshiping demons. This was a doctrine of demons with Gilgamesh. We know that people were praying and receiving words from the gods from these fish hybrid men that lived in the Ubzu. And there was a lot of crazy stuff going on. This was completely demonic. People had completely turned their backs on God. So God says, you know what? Cut yourself off from that. Separate yourself from that, because I'm going to take you to a new place. Because God always has us do that. When we decide that we are going to be part of God's family, we have to reject that old sinful lifestyle. We have to reject that old family that we have. Because remember, who is our father when we're born? We're born under Adam. Adam is our father. Adam was the one that rejected God and sinned in the garden. He ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil because he wanted that knowledge. He wanted to be like God. So when we're born, all of us are born under the family of Adam. But God says, you know what? I'm separating you from them because I'm taking you to a new place. And we know that in Mark 10:29 through 30, he says that nobody who has left family and homes and businesses will not receive 100-time-fold in this lifetime when you decide to follow God. Because we see that Abraham, he leaves his family. He follows God, even though he doesn't know where he's going. He's an alien in a foreign land. Stephen, the martyr Stephen, tells us this in Acts chapter 7. Stephen tells us that Abram was living in the land that his descendants would receive as an inheritance, even though it was belonging to others. He lived as a stranger, as a foreigner in this land. He lived as an alien. I love that the English translators used the Latin word alien, because when I looked up the meaning, what does alien mean? It means belonging to another. And when God separates us, when he has us be an alien in a foreign land, which we are in right now, this is not our home. We are in a temporary dwelling place. He makes us aliens because, you know what? We don't belong to this world. We belong to another, and that other is God. We belong to God. He's separating us to say, these ones are mine. He's saying, Abraham, I chose you. I chose you to be mine. And that's what we see right here is Jesus telling Abraham, leave that old sinful lifestyle, leave everything behind and follow me. Come follow me. And Abram, even though his history, his background, his family, it's comfortable for him. It is a nice setup because we're going to see that Abram's rich. He has no reason to leave. He has a lot of money, a lot of a lot of people under him. He has a lot of livestock. He is a wealthy man. Why would he need to just uproot himself and become this foreigner just wandering around and he doesn't even know where he's going to go? Why would he need to do that? Because we're looking forward to another life. We're looking forward to the city that God is going to build. And we see that in the book of Hebrews chapter 11, because it says, by faith Abraham obeyed when he was called out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance, and he went out not knowing where he was going. By faith he went to live in a land of promise, as in a foreign land, living in tents with Isaac and Jacob, heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to a city that has foundations, whose designers and builder is God. That's what we're all looking forward to. So if you feel like you're different because you're a Christian, and maybe you're looked down upon, or maybe people make fun of you, or, oh, I can't believe you believe in this, and that's so crazy, and you feel like you're a stranger in this land, take heart, because you know who knew how that felt? Abram knew how that felt. And I know I've been very hard on Abram because I'm like, oh, he makes really stupid decisions and I can't believe this, and he just seems like a weak person. God slapped that right out of my head, and he's like, you know who had it hard? Abram had it hard, because we have all of the promises that we can look back on and see that they were fulfilled. So that bolsters our faith. We become perfected in our faith when we look back on those things and see that. But you know what? The patriarchs, like the OG patriarch Abram, he didn't have that stuff. All he had was faith. His faith was perfected because he knew that those things were going to happen, and he believed them in his heart, and that's why his faith was credited to him as righteousness. That doesn't mean that he was a perfect person. He never stumbled. He never sinned. That's not true. He did. We see that even when he's following God, he stumbles and he commits sexual sin, and we are dealing with the repercussions of that sexual sin today. Today we are dealing with that sin, because today, December, 11th, 12th, whatever, somebody tried to blow themselves up in New York with a pipe bomb for a terrorist act, because Abram had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac, and the Muslims and the Jews came from both of those boys, and they are fighting over the inheritance that God spoke about in Genesis 12:1. Because even though you sin, we all sin. Even as Christians, there will be times that you stumble. You might stumble like Abram, where you're involved in sexual sin. I know that is the number one thing people ask me about. And, you know, we're all guilty of sin. Even as Christians, we're all going to stumble. But just know that there's no sin that can separate you from the love of Christ. If we follow God, if we get back up when we stumble and we continue to follow God, we will be in that new city where we're ruling and reigning with him, because we're going to have a new heritage. We're not with our old family anymore. We've been separated out. We belong to God. You know, I'm so proud that I share a name with the martyr Stephen, because we both have the same name, Stephen. My last name, Stephen. And that comes from the Greek Stephanos, which means crowned one. Regardless of your earthly name, we all have a heritage from the Lord. We share the same Shem, which is God's name. God is our head. So we are righteous. We are victorious. We all wear the victor's crown, regardless of our name, our Shem here on earth, because our Shem is God's Shem, and that is Prince of Peace. He's the King. So we are ruling and reigning with him. We are victorious in this life. In all things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. We've been separated out. God bought us with a price. So that's why we glorify God with our bodies. This is why we get to wear the victor's crown, because we are going to rule and reign with him. God has made us kingdoms and priests with him so that we can worship God. We have a new heritage. We've been separated out because we trust in God. God chose us. We are his. But then we follow him no matter what. It doesn't matter what the world thinks of us. It doesn't matter what they do to us. We know that God is true to his word. We know that he's true to his promises. And if we just follow him, if we have faith like Abram, where we step out and say, I know it's comfortable back home and everybody's cool with what I do, but I know that this is not the life for me. I am going to go into the unknown and I am going to follow God because I'm set apart. I'm chosen. Maybe hearing Abraham leave everything behind is inspiring to you. And maybe you say, I wish God had chosen me, or I want to be like Abraham. Just know that God has chosen you. He's just waiting for you to follow him. And if you're willing to do that, if you're willing to say, you know what, I'm going to leave that old life behind. I'm going to leave that family of Adam, and I want you to be my head, God. Just know you will be in God's family. All you have to do is trust in God. Do the things that God tells you to do. Walk in faith. Make God the head of your life. Reject those old things. When you do that, when you say, I'm rejecting that old life, God, I know that is an old sinful life and I don't want any part of it. I want to go where you go. I want you to be my God. You will be in his family. And just know that yes, you will stumble along the way. But if you get up and you continue to persevere and you continue to trust in God and you continue to do the things that he tells you to do, you will reign and rule with him in this new city. So I know that this life is hard and it's easy to get discouraged and it's easy for people to look down on you and say, oh, that was a stupid decision, hindsight 2020, like I did with Abraham. But just know that your righteousness will be credited to you because you followed God no matter what. So that's all that I wanted to share with you. I hope you'll like, subscribe, and share, and make sure to check out one of these playlists up here because we have to put on the full armor of God every day to take a stand against the schemes of the devil, because this is not our home and we have to be protected. So that's all that I wanted to share with you, and I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.